In this 25th anniversary year of September 11th, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation is honoring decades of memory, service, and sacrifice. Through its Steel Across America tour, the foundation brings an original World Trade Center steel beam to communities across the country as a symbol of sacrifice. To honor the 343 FDNY heroes lost on 9/11, Tunnel to Towers is delivering 343 mortgage-free homes and continuing efforts to end veteran homelessness. Donate $11 monthly and amplify your impact with a car or land donation at T2T.org.
He's at war with woke.
Joe Concha
thinks liberals are a joke.
Joe Concha.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
All right, everybody, on this Friday night, breaking news. So that whole deal that the Senate had as far as, okay, we're going to fund the TSA, DHS, get everybody back to work. The lines will go away. The misery at America's airports will be over. Well, that just ain't going to happen. And quite frankly, I don't blame House Speaker Mike Johnson. Now, remember, if the Senate passes this, it has to go back to the House for them to approve it before it gets to the president's desk. And this thing ain't going to be approved. And the Senate, at least Senate members, are now basically on a 2-week vacation, which, yay, great job, guys. I'm working. I'm going to work this weekend. I'm working through Easter weekend. Why do you guys get 2 weeks off? When you, basically a bill was, or at least a measure was passed, and they just left town. And that's on Republicans, like the Senate Majority Leader, Mike Thune. And then obviously Democrats went along with this because they got some things they wanted, right? Where here we have, all right, DHS, TSA is going to be funded, but ICE is not going to be funded. Now, ICE is funded through 2029. This is where we get into the weeds a little bit. But I'll read from the FoxNews.com story. House Speaker Mike Johnson chastised congressional Democrats on Friday, saying Republicans will not be part of any effort to reopen America's borders and stop deportation of criminal illegal immigrants. Johnson held a 2-hour conference call with House Republicans on Friday, saying they were all united in the party's position to fully fund the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, to end the partial government shutdown that has injected chaos, as we've seen over and over again in news reports on social media, into air travel. Quote, they have taken hostage the funding processes of government so that they can impose their radical agenda on the American people, Johnson told reporters of Senate Democrats. But Republicans passed this as well. So this is not good in terms of, okay, the government's not going to reopen. I think most people would say, okay, Johnson's taking the right position. And you wonder now, do we have the first Mitch McConnell-like person in the Senate as far as John Thune is concerned, because he got his constituency, basically Republicans in the Senate, to help pass this thing. And obviously House Republicans don't like this very much. So that's where we are at this point. Here's Mike Johnson talking about this funding bill. And let's just say this guy ain't happy. Cut number 11. Cut number 11. Go.
Look at the Democrats. They're voting over and over. Yesterday afternoon, we gave them a chance to fund Homeland Security. You know how many House Democrats voted yes? 4 of them. They want to use people as pawns. People are not pawns. These are workers who are sacrificially serving the country, many of them without pay, to make sure that you and your families are safe. And we're done with it. This is not a political blame game. This is one party doing the job and getting the government funded, and another that's using people as pawns. We're not going to do that. Listen, we're going to send it over there.
All right. Yeah, Democrats went along with this, and I agree with him. They've shut down the government for no apparent reason, with no plan whatsoever, just to hurt people. Chaos is a ladder. And that's what Democrats saw here as far as, okay, shut down America's airports as far as giving these incredibly long wait lines. And hopefully people will blame Trump because the media won't report this the way they should. Now, the problem is that Democrats couldn't pass this on their own. I hear Johnson talking about Democrats in the middle of the night passing this bill. Well, Republicans owned the Senate chamber, the upper chamber, 53-47. So you needed their votes, too. And they went along with this. So, here we go. As Trump says, Democrats always stick together. Republicans, not so much. Not so much as we are seeing here. And look, here are the ramifications. If you end up not deporting people anymore and not enforcing the laws on the books as ICE does, because then you have my governor, and I say that grudgingly, Mikey Sherrill, who just got elected somehow by winning by 13 points when every poll showed her neck and neck with Jack Ciattarelli. So I again, how do you go from neck and neck in every poll and then you win by 13? Just saying, weird stuff here in the Garden State. Well, she wants ICE out of New Jersey. Like out, like not here doing their job whatsoever in any way, shape or form. I thought she was a moderate. I was told she was a moderate, that, she flew a helicopter once when she served in the military. Therefore, that makes her a moderate. No, she is a puppet, just like Abby Spanberger down in Virginia is a puppet. The minute they get into office, Trojan Horse 101, suddenly they become far left advocates. Nothing different than AOC and Zora Memdani. Anyway, a 68-year-old man, Morristown, my now wife, girlfriend at the time, was working at Morristown Memorial Hospital when I first started dating her. It's a beautiful town. It really is. It has a center of town, a square. During Christmas, it's as beautiful as anything you would see in any Hallmark Christmas movie. Great shops, great restaurants, just your all-American town. Not that it matters, but an illegal there ran over a 68-year-old man, pinned him down, ran out of the vehicle after hitting him, and left him to die. And Mikey Sherrill wants ICE, the type of people that would have eventually made sure that an illegal that's in this country that shouldn't be here with a criminal record, which this man had when he killed the 68-year-old man in Morristown. And again, runs him over, and as he's dying, just gets out of the car and runs out. Well, here's the report on this. And this is what Mikey Sherrill apparently tacitly advocates. Cut number 13, go.
Right now, they're trying to figure out where this guy is in the state of New Jersey or elsewhere. There's this ongoing manhunt, and it comes as the New Jersey governor limits just how much police can work with ICE agents there in the Garden State. But right now, both agencies are trying to track down an illegal migrant accused of leaving a man on the road to die. So DHS says this is who they're looking for: Wilson Adrian Morocho Necta. He ran over a guy in Morristown, New Jersey just last week. And then, Sandra, he ran off. He left this 68-year-old man pinned underneath his truck, and that man later died. This is him, Justo Pilko Tenesaka. So he was rushed to the hospital there in New Jersey. He didn't make it. Let him into the country illegally from Ecuador. If we can pull up his picture as well. And he crossed into the United States at the southern border back in 2019. He was deported, but DHS says he just came right back in again. So the search is going on as the governor there, Mikey Sherrill, adds new restrictions on ICE agents, including a ban on the agents wearing masks.
The United States of America, we're not going to tolerate masked roving militias pretending to be well-trained law enforcement agents.
So DHS tells Fox the attempt to ban federal law enforcement here from wearing masks in New Jersey is reckless, it's dangerous and irresponsible. DHS says they're not going to listen to Governor Sherrill, so we'll see what happens next. Maybe Governor Sherrill will see those ICE agents at the Newark airport and talk to them there, Sandra.
Yeah, exactly. Alexis, thank you very much.
That's Alexis Smith-Adams with Martha McCallum on Fox News earlier. Yeah, I mean, Mikey Sherrill calls ICE agents federal law enforcement who are responsible for ejecting the worst of the worst: murderers, rapists, child molesters, sex traffickers out of this country who entered here in the first place. And she calls them armed militias. This is sick stuff. This is far left stuff. And again, this person ran on being a moderate that will bring New Jersey together. Oh, screw you. Phil Murphy, I'm suddenly yearning for, which actually, no, I never said that out loud. Just give us somebody with common sense to run the state, because most of the state is red outside of, I don't know, Newark and Trenton and other urban areas. And that is, I guess, the trade-off. The urban areas rule certain states like New Jersey, while most of the other state where people have common sense and just want people to govern based on the laws and the books. That's all we want. And Mikey Sherrill, armed militias, she calls ICE, and said nothing in terms of condolences to the family of the 68-year-old man in Morristown who was pinned down by an illegal and left to die. Great job, Mikey. Wonderful. Outstanding. Good Lord. Anyway, if you want to hear about, again, illegal immigration, and it's laid out perfectly here by Stephen Miller, who's a chief advisor, deputy chief of staff, actually, to President Trump. Here he talks about how Somalian fraud, let's say in a place like Minnesota. I always get the two confused lately, given the makeup of the population. Here's Miller talking about how if you lived in Minnesota, or you live in Minnesota now, and you see your Somalian neighbor, who doesn't really work all that much, driving around in a new Mercedes or a Porsche, boy, you got to wonder, where'd all that money come from? I mean, this is a perfect visionary, let's put it that way. Cut number 16, go.
Minnesotan who works as a lineman or works as a construction worker, works in any job that requires hard work, dedication, focus, who's worried about his ability to support for and provide his family. And then imagine that he has a neighbor who's a Somali refugee who arrived 2 years ago and has a Mercedes and no financial stress and no worries at all in the entire world and never seems to ever go to work at all because he just went to an office in the state, lied on a piece of paper, and got unlimited free money forever for life. That is the system that is being run. And that is the corruption that this task force, under the leadership of the vice president, is going to demolish. And I'll just...
Precisely. Absentively. Imagine that. Wow, this guy moved in 2 years ago, doesn't speak any English, but he's driving around in a Mercedes, and suddenly there he is. Seems pretty comfortable, doesn't really work all that much. I wonder where that money came from. The corruption and the fraud, not just in Minnesota, California, other states. By the time we uncover all this, we're going to be talking many, many billions of dollars of your taxpayer money that was supposed to go towards autism centers and go towards COVID relief. And all these things was completely and totally stolen. One of the great, when we look back on COVID in 2020 and the way we treated it and the way money was just thrown out there without any accountability, it will be the sorriest time in this country's history from a fiscal perspective, from an ethical perspective. That we do know. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is Concha at Night. Back with so much more in just a moment.
Where liberalism is a no-go. The Joe Concha Show, weekday edition. Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Welcome back, everybody. So, as you may have heard by now, Tiger Woods was in another rollover crash, this time Jupiter, Florida. If you look at the photos from this, I mean, I've been to Jupiter before. It's a very sleepy, very nice town on the east coast of Florida. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, how do you get into a rollover accident? In other words, when he had another rollover accident, we remember that was 2021, I believe. It was in California. He was driving along one of those cliff kind of roads, lost control of his car. It was like 8 a.m. He was rushing to get to some sort of charity event and went off the road. And just like out of a movie, just rolled over and over again. Injuring himself, particularly his back, particularly his knee, hip. And he, tried to come back, I believe, in 2024 at the British Open, and he didn't make the cut. And by the way, Tiger Woods is, now 50 years old, so you don't recover from these things, perhaps as you would when you're 25 years old. Now, the point is that 2 rollover crashes in one lifetime. I could look up the odds, I guess, but virtually impossible. It's almost like getting hit by lightning twice in one lifetime. Anyway, we now have an update from the sheriff in the county where Jupiter, Florida is, and this is what he tells us. This is cut number whatever, go.
The question is, anyone else injured because of the rollover crash? And the answer is thankfully no. This is a small 2-lane road. Again, I'm going to show you the photos. Had there been somebody moving in the opposite direction, we would not be having a conversation saying there was no injuries. This could have been a lot worse. Is that all?
Sheriff, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so what we're seeing is that Tiger Woods has been arrested and charged with DUI following a rollover crash in Jupiter, Florida. Woods is not injured. No one else was injured in this incident. But now, here's the thing. He was tested for alcohol and did not register in any way. In other words, he, I guess, blew back something that showed that he didn't have any alcohol in him. However, when they asked him to be tested for, I guess, other things, other substances, then suddenly, well, he refused, and that's why they had to arrest him, because he had resisted at that point. So, look, we've seen this movie, unfortunately, many, many times with Tiger Woods. We had that incident that happened in Florida as well, where he was driving along a road at a very late hour, left his home, apparently had a confrontation, an argument with his wife at the time, and hit, I believe it was a fire hydrant on like just a suburban road, and apparently was on some sort of sleep medication that led to this incident. And then we all remember what happened there with his ex-wife, who actually had to take, I believe it was a 7-iron to get him out of the car after he had crashed. So from there, Tiger Woods has never been the same as far as golf is concerned. We remember the 1997 Masters, and he won that tournament in his first year as a pro and came onto the scene, and no Masters ever since has had ratings like that, where you have a guy, Tiger Woods, great name, right? And dominates the sport for a good 10 years. And everybody said, all right, he's going to pass Jack Nicklaus for the most majors of all time easily, and then some. A breeze. And then that first crash happened back in, I believe it was either 2008 or 9. And then from there, he's never been the same. He won the Masters again in 2019, which was one of the great stories you'll ever see, because you're like, all right, Tiger has redeemed himself. He has embraced his family, and he's now clean. And maybe even at an advanced age, he could start winning again, and he has not since. And now to see this happen again, this is one of the great tragedies in sports. You talk about Mike Tyson. Tiger Woods is a Shakespearean tragedy, given everything that we're seeing at this point, given the stories that we're hearing now as far as impairment and, again, driving and, again, rolling over a car, which twice in one lifetime makes you wonder what is going on with Tiger Woods at this point. It's a shame, because many people thought he could come back and play the Masters. He wouldn't win, I think, at this point, being as rusty as he is, but it would have been great to see him at Augusta. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is Concha at Night. Back with this story and so much more in just a moment.
It's the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Welcome back, everybody. So let's hear again from the sheriff in the county where Jupiter, Florida is located. That is the home of Tiger Woods. And here he is confirming that Tiger was, in fact, arrested for DUI and now is in custody. This is cut number whatever. Go.
DUI investigators came to the scene here, and Mr. Woods did exemplify signs of impairment. They did several tests on him. Of course, he did explain the injuries and the surgeries that he had. We did take that into account. But they did do some in-depth roadside tests. And when it was determined, he was placed under arrest and taken to the Martin County Jail. At the Martin County Jail, and even on scene, we really weren't suspicious of alcohol being involved in this case, and that proved to be true at the jail. So Mr. Woods did a breathalyzer test, blew triple zeros, but when it came time for us to ask for a urinalysis test, He refused, and so he's been charged with DUI, with property damage, and refusal to submit to a lawful test.
This is an absolute tragedy, as I said earlier. I mean, obviously on something where he knew that a urine analysis would expose whatever he is on at this point. And we're talking now, if the original accident that happened when his wife had to take a 7-iron, or maybe it was an 8, who cares, to get him out of his car, that was about 20 years ago. So this tells you that these things, you don't just cure yourself and say, all right, I'm better. And clearly, you have to wonder about that accident in 2021 when he rolled over in Southern California, basically down a mountain. Was there something in his system there as well? And they didn't bother to check for it because he was so injured they had to get into a hospital. So it just makes you wonder. And it's such a shame. Again, we're talking about a person who easily would have been the greatest golfer of all time. And not just forget golf, just a guy who is transformative as far as making golf a mainstream sport, especially for inner city kids, urban kids. You know, when was the last time or ever that we saw a black golfer be as dominant as Tiger Woods? Right. And this is completely self-destructive. I'm making very obvious statements here, but it's such a shame to see this. Again, many people were very excited that he may come back and play the Masters, and just to see him play there again and maybe be a little competitive, you know, maybe give us a little tease like, all right, the old Tiger's back. That would have been something, because again, when he plays and he plays well, everybody stops what they're doing. And you tell me the last golfer that did that. Maybe Jack Nicklaus in 1986 at Augusta. Maybe Arnold Palmer. I wasn't around for Arnie's Army, but again, like a Michael Jordan, basically, of his sport. When he played, you stopped and you rooted for the guy, even if you knew that he had many, many picadillos, for lack of a better term, in his closet. But I don't know. I'm reacting a little emotionally to this, but it's just such a shame. You have all the money in the world. Hire a driver. I mean, this isn't hard. Call an Uber. But this has happened too many times. And now you wonder, can Tiger Woods ever come back again in any capacity? I'm not talking about winning championships, but just in the eyes of the public. How many strikes do you get before people say, you know what, this guy needs help? And when he says he's better, you know what, maybe just stick to your family and just try to get yourself better instead of trying to get back into the spotlight, I suppose. Anyway, let's go to some other news items here today. AOC, boy, I really, you know, Boston University, econ major, right? I think she would know about this stuff a little bit more on a very granular level. But no, sure enough, she is now blaming President Trump for high electric bills in New York City. Very interesting. Cut number 3, go.
As much as, you know, as much as as I personally have differences with this administration, I would want them to be successful in reducing the energy bills of American people, but people aren't feeling it. It's not working. In New York City alone, there are some families that are getting electric bills that are $600 a month, as high as some people were paying in rent not too long ago, before our housing costs skyrocketed as well. So you know, I don't think those efforts are working on behalf of the administration.
This is the Democratic playbook, to pretend that costs were not high under the Biden administration, when Democrats said that, well, inflation is just, you know, transitory, or really it's the Putin price hike. It's Vladimir Putin that's causing our prices to go high. Or then they blame the American voter for not understanding that the economy is actually awesome. You just don't get it. Here are the facts. The average electricity rate in the United States is 18 cents per kilowatt. In New York City, that's nearly double, at 31 cents per kilowatt. That is 72% higher in New York City. Not because of Trump, because of all these radical green energy mandates and policies that AOC supports. She's literally complaining about something and saying it's Trump's fault when this is what she wanted all along. And this is what we get from a person who may run for president. Imagine this person as the commander in chief of the United States. Oh, That property in New Zealand is looking better and better. That's certainly for sure. Meanwhile, Anderson Cooper, of course, pretends to be a journalist. He just quit 60 Minutes because, well, CBS, it's not going to be far left anymore. They're going to try to move to the center. They really are. And Anderson can't have that, certainly. Of course, he's now using his anchor position to defend Gavin Newsom on Trump's whole criticism that you can't have a guy with mental issues or, the types of things that Newsom himself has said is a big problem for him as an adult. Nearly 60 years old, says, I can't read. That's what he told a black audience recently. I have a 960 SAT. I'm just like you. Basically saying, I'm stupid, just like you. Elect me as president. Okay. I mean, if you want to be a golf starter, that's fine. Want to work the exact change line in your, local toll booth? Okay, fine. President? No. I get Trump's point completely. Anyway, here's Anderson, of course, coming to Gavin's aid because, well, that's what CNN does. Cut number one, go.
And with so much going on in the war with Iran, President Trump still found time today to insult millions of Americans, both adults and school kids who experience or have faced problems reading. For the record, I'm one of them. I had a mild form of dyslexia as a child. Reading did not come easy for me, and I still occasionally mix up B's and D's and S's and R's, and I sometimes stutter and stumble on words, as you may have noticed.
No. Oh, you had a mild case of dyslexia. At last check, Anderson Cooper is not running for president. All right. He reads a teleprompter on CNN. He acts like a journalist. He's a performance artist. You want to do that? Fine. You want to be president? Sorry. Anyway, I just have to quote Dean Wormer, of course, of Animal House fame, which basically it comes down to this. This is cut number two. Go.
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
Yes, exactly. Now, Gavin's not fat, but drunk and stupid? Well, the guy did go to the French Laundry during COVID, pre-vaccinations available, when he shut down his state and made school children learn remotely for 2 years. But then there he is at the French Laundry in Napa, having a wonderful meal at a restaurant with other people, unmasked. And that should have been disqualifying alone. That we're even talking about Gavin Newsom as a possible president of the United States is incredible, considering what a hypocrite this guy is. And he is as phony as a $3 bill. Anyway, have you heard that Candace Owens is a lunatic? She is. Oh, yeah. Conservative darling. She was a couple of years ago. I met her. Seemed nice. You're like, wow, young and pretty and smart. And boy, this could be somebody that really, really can do the type of things that we've seen for the Republican Party, like a Rush Limbaugh, for example, because obviously she's a podcaster, she's a broadcaster. Then suddenly, after Charlie Kirk was assassinated at Utah Valley University on September 10th, she has, ever since then, what is that, September? We're talking 6-8 months ago? Every day, her podcast is about how Erica Kirk was in on it, how Turning Point was in on it, how it was an inside job, how Tyler Robinson, the furry-loving, trans-loving kid that was on the roof that shot Charlie, and there's overwhelming evidence to support that, like more evidence than was against OJ. Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk because he hated his views on men playing against women in sports, which Charlie was against, which 80% of the country is against, if not more. And now Owens, since then, has been mocking Erica Kirk, a woman who is left with two very young children. I remember when Charlie hosted Fox and Friends Weekend, and at the end of the show, his two kids came running up to him, and you never saw like a dad so happy. I know the feeling, right? When they're that age, you are absolutely the hero. And he was killed just a couple weeks after that. And now Erica Kirk is left with this burden of explaining to his, her kids that dad's in heaven and he was just suddenly taken from us. And the fact that, again, this assassination happened on video, so she probably saw it, right? Imagine seeing the spouse, a person that you love, the father of your children and mother of your children being assassinated like that, shot in the neck. And there are people out there who are actually mocking her, led by Candace friggin' Owens, who's supposedly a friend, right, Oh, and she is a psychopath, as you will hear in this cut. Number 6, go.
Getting close to something, keep going, and we are definitively getting closer to what took place on that day, and we are getting closer. I think we're close.
Getting closer.
We are definitively getting closer. We're getting close. We're getting close. Very close. We're inching ever closer.
Closer.
We are now, I believe, extremely close to solving this thing. As I inch closer and closer to discovering the truth, I've got a feeling about that. We're close. We're getting closer to something, and that something is pretty big. I just sense that we're getting close. I sense that we are getting very close, and we are getting closer, getting very close to something. We're getting closer because we are getting close. We are definitely getting closer, very close. We are very close.
I think we get it, Elias.
We are.
Yeah, that's fine. That's Candace Owens over and over again since October of 2025, talking about how she is getting close to finding the real killer of Charlie Kirk. And all those clicks where you hear her saying over and over again, we're getting close, we're getting close. That's day after day. She hasn't solved the murder yet. Oh, that's right. It's already been solved. Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk. But she does this as almost like a soap opera or your average reality show, just, giving you a cliffhanger like every day. Like, we're close. Tune in tomorrow. We're going to have more information. And then there's nothing there. She watched a video of this comedian mocking Candace Owens, dressing up as Erica Kirk. And it's just the most disgusting thing you'll ever see. It's a comedian basically saying that Erica Kirk is happy that her husband's dead, and she's celebrating all the attention she's getting as a result. This is very sick stuff. All Erica Kirk has done since then is to say to love your family and embrace your God. And that's it. And if she does it with a smile, well, she even said she forgives the shooter, which I can never do, but she did. And this person is being mocked by this weird faction on the right, led by Candace Owens. What a sick individual. And Candace, congratulations. I have a book coming out in December called The 99 Most Toxic Americans We Could Really, 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 Really Do Without. And all those reallys are in there. And you'll never guess who made the cut. Candace Owens, you get a full chapter. Congratulations on that. Anyway, before we go to break, I love this. This is Trump on with the 5 on Fox News yesterday. And Trump, I saw it down in Mar-a-Lago, was very complimentary towards my wife. Like, oh, you're the runner. Oh, you're in great shape. Oh, I wouldn't want to run against you. Very charming guy. Here he is, not hitting on Dana Perino, but, well, certainly putting on the charm times 10. This is cut number 17. Go.
Remember when we had lunch years ago in the base of Trump Tower when it was a brand new building?
It's a long time ago, yes.
A long time ago, and you haven't changed. Oh. You have not changed. Now, I'm not allowed to say this. It's the end of my political career, but you may be even better looking. Okay. So I don't know what you're doing. But I will not say that.
Has a lot
I will
to do
not
with
say
that
because that will end my political career. You're not allowed to say a woman's beautiful anymore. You know that, Jesse. You got to be careful.
Jesse's always in trouble.
No, he's borderline on this stuff. I mean, he's really,
yeah.
But
now, I was on with Dana today on set, and I can confirm what the president has said. I've been going on with Dana for years, and she gets more beautiful with every passing day, and a great person. Anybody who's a dog lover, that shows you a good soul. And obviously, I have 2 dogs. Dana has Percy, wrote a whole book about Jasper, her other pooch, and she lives at the Jersey Shore. So how do you not love this person? But anyway, I found that interesting and funny. And that's what makes The 5 a great show, because you get authentic commentary, even from the sitting president of the United States. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is the Joe Concha Show. We wrap this puppy up in just a moment.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Welcome back, everybody. So Jimmy Kimmel is now doing damage control because this absolute insufferable moron decides to go after Mark Wayne Mullen, Senator, Oklahoma, a guy who took over his dad's business when his dad got sick. That business was plumbing. And Mark Wayne Mullen worked with his dad and obviously was trained to do this and actually turned the business after his dad got sick into an even more successful business. Then he became an MMA fighter before getting into politics and actually won a Senate seat in Oklahoma. That's a great life story. Just like it is with J.D. Vance, people that come out of nowhere and through their own resilience and own work ethic are able to get to a point where now, in Mark Wayne Mullen's case, he is the head of the Department of Homeland Security. Great job. Golf clap times 10. Well, Kimmel decides to say, well, I can't believe we have a plumber that's trying to protect us from terrorism. He says this and obviously got some serious blowback from it. So now we have late night hosts, and we never saw Carson do this, or Letterman, or Leno, have to do damage control, clean up on aisle Kimmel the next day because they got so much backlash. What a clown this guy is. And this is why he's in a distant third place in the late night race behind Gutfeld and behind the equally insufferable Stephen Colbert. Anyway, here's cut number 12. Kimmel doing damage control. Go.
President and his pals in the MAGA media are not happy with me right now. Trump even called into Fox to complain about me tonight. His apple polishers are all in a tizzy because I made light of the fact that his new head of Homeland Security, Mark Wayne Mullen, before he was a senator, was a plumber, and now he's the head of Homeland Security, which is not necessarily the kind of resume you might hope for the person in charge of protecting us from terrorism. Of course, they decided to twist that to say it was an insult to plumbers, which it was not. I wouldn't put a plumber in charge of Homeland Security for the same reason I wouldn't call a five-star general to pull a rat out of my toilet, okay? It has we all have our areas of expertise. So anyway, they went nuts about this.
And of course, the SEALs clap in the audience. I would much rather have a lot more plumbers in our government and a lot less lawyers. That I do know. In the Senate, in Congress, too many lawyers. That's certainly for sure. Anyway, Tim Burchett responded to this, and he's a senator from Tennessee, and this is just absolute perfection as far as a return serve. Cut number 4, go.
Hey everybody, Tim Burchett. I don't know if y'all saw it or not, but Jimmy Kimmel took a shot at Mark Wayne Mullen because he's a plumber. Well, the truth is he left school because his daddy got sick to run that business, and he took it upon himself to make fun of Mark Wayne for that. And to me, that shows the complete irony and the double standard of a lot of the Democrats and the leftists in this country. They claim to be the working man's friend, but yet at first opportunity they make fun of one that's achieved some incredible success in this world. You know, Jimmy, you're the type of guy that's going to throw a rock over a fence and run home and hide behind your mama's skirt. And that's exactly what you're doing. You hide around, you say those things so you can run your little circle of influence. And you know, and you're a guy that got his start on a TV show that showed a bunch of young girls jumping up and down on trampolines for all things.
Great point.
Oh, man, brother, you need to stay in your lane. Mark Wayne loves his family, he loves his country, and he loves the Lord. And those are 3 pretty dadgum good things in my account. So if I was you, I'd stay in my lane. Thank y'all for sending me here.
I love that guy. I got to move to Tennessee. I like the way they talk down there. Very authentic, very real. And yeah, that was the perfect retort. Anyway, wow. Fast week. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Joe Concha Show, 9 p.m. Eastern Time on WABC and on stations around the country. We're back on Sunday at 11 a.m. for the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Until then, I got 2 words for you. Bye-bye.
In this 25th anniversary year of September 11th, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation continues to honor America's heroes. Heroes like Fire Lieutenant Michael Wells, who was inspired by 9/11 to serve his community. After 14 dedicated years of service, he lost his battle with occupational cancer, leaving behind his wife, Katie, and their 3 children. Tunnel to Towers honored Lieutenant Wells by paying off the family's mortgage in recognition of his sacrifices. Donate $11 monthly and amplify your impact with a car or land donation. Go to T2T.org.